What's up guys, Eric Vasquez here from teachmetodesign.com, and today I'm going to show you how you can construct a wooden Wordmark logo in Adobe Illustrator. Alright guys, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can create a cool Wordmark logo that looks like it's made out of wood. So all I've done is create a new document here, which by default you'll see is CMYK. So I just want to change that quickly to RGB for now because if this were a real logo being printed, it would be fine to leave CMYK, but I just want the colors to look good on my screen. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing that I have here is these lines. These are kind of a wooden texture that I got off of a stock photo site. So this is not mine, but it would be fairly easy to recreate. All you would have to do is grab your pen tool, make some squiggly lines, stuff like this. And you could even, replicate this and do it a few times, rough it up and make it look kind of random and stuff. But I just wanted to save time, so that's the only reason I grabbed this. But as long as you have a square, you'll be able to use it as a swatch. So make sure that you have your swatches panel open to the right. If you don't, you can just come up to Window and choose swatches. So all we're going to do is select this wooden line texture and drag it over here to our swatches, and then we can delete this. Okay, so now any shape or anything like that I have, I can just fill and it'll be a seamless texture. And I also did a video recently on creating seamless textures in Adobe Illustrator, so I will be sure to send that link or put it in the description below. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is just create some text. Let's see. Alright, and I encourage you guys to experiment and play around with some different fonts and see what looks good, depending on the qualities that you want your logo to have or the feel that you're going for. But in this case, I think something pretty bold and heavy will work best. So in this case, I'm using Avenir Black. You could also use a font like Gotham, which I like using a lot for logos. And then all you're going to do is press Command-Shift-O to create outlines or convert it to outlines. Another way that you could do this is if you have your text selected and you come up to the Type menu and choose Create Outlines. And all that's doing is basically converting it from live type that we can edit into shapes. And that's where Illustrator is the strongest, because when you're working with shapes and vector shapes specifically, you have the ability to scale things up and down to pretty much any size without any loss in quality, as opposed to Photoshop where, if you had some text and you were zooming in this far, it would just look pixelated. You would see all the tiny squares and pixels and everything like that. So that is why we like to use Illustrator for logos. Okay, so once you have your outline text, the first thing that we're going to do is just pick some colors. So I'm going to use like kind of a slightly desaturated tan or beige. A color like this will work just fine. And if you're interested, I am using A0846A. Just anything in this range though will look pretty good. Okay, from here we're going to select our text, come up to the Object menu and choose Path, Offset Path. And let's say we're going to offset it by about 4 pixels. Okay? Then I'm just going to cut that, paste in front by pressing Command F and then Command G to group it. Now I'm going to change the color to a darker, a little more saturated brown, and then hit Command Shift in the left bracket to send it to the back. So now we will have our main text layer, this lighter brown, as well as our outline. And I want to make it a little bit thicker, so I'm just going to drag my fill color to the stroke color, come over here to my stroke weight, and change it to something a little bit thicker, around 8 points. Okay, something like that will work. Then all I'm going to do is select this and ungroup it by pressing Command-Shift-G, just so that I can space these letters out a little bit more from each other. You don't want them running into each other. Okay. If I still had my live type, I could just do this manually, which would be the the kerning, which I've shown you guys before, in between the space in between each letter. Okay, So now once you have that, we can select, I'm just clicking while holding down the Shift key to select the inner fill of all these letters. And then I'm going to do the same for the back part of the letters. Hold down Shift and click to select each one. And then once you have that, we now have a stroke, but the problem is if we resize this and make it larger or smaller, our stroke could change, which we don't want. So what we have to do is expand these lines by coming to Object, Expand. Make sure you have Fill and Stroke both checked off, and then hit OK. And now that's going to change our outlines into a path. Okay, from here, go to the Path Finder, which is under Window, Pathfinder, or you'll see it here. And we just want to choose this first box that says -back, and that just kind of merges everything together. So now you'll see in your colors over here, it's just a fill color, no more stroke. All right. The next thing we're going to do is grab our marquee tool, or our rectangle tool by pressing M. I'm in Photoshop mode here. Been working in Photoshop all day. All right, we're just going to create this long kind of rectangle. And we can make it a little bit darker than our back color there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is hold down Command and Shift, and then click and drag just to the left so I have a copy of this. Okay, and that'll keep it in alignment with your first shape. But what I'm going to do is come over here to my transparency option, and I'm going to lower the opacity to say maybe 30 or 40%, and also change the blending mode to multiply so that it looks more like a shadow. I'm going to select both of these and press Command G. I'm going to group those together. And then all I'm going to do is select these two and then hold down Command and Shift and drag them to make copies. So these are basically going to be our vertical strokes that delineate the wooden boards, or the illusion of the wooden boards, if you will. Alright, so you have something like this, but you'll notice that it's not exactly evenly spaced out. So a good way to fix that is to just select them all. And then up here in your toolbar, you'll see that you have these align tools, and we're going to choose Horizontal Distribute Center, and that'll space them all out evenly. All right, and from there you can add more, take some away, and just kind of see what looks good to you. All right, I might want to put one more here in the middle, so I'm just going to align those one more time to adjust. Okay, so now we're going to select those, press Command G on those so that we can group them. And I'm going to select my inner fill here, this light brown color, press Command C and then Command F to paste in front, and press Command Shift and the right bracket to bring it in front of these vertical lines. Then while that shape is still selected, hold down the Shift key and select your vertical lines. Now over here in the Transparency tab, I have an option that says Make Mask, and this is the Opacity mask, which I've also done a video on this before to show you guys how to use it, which is very similar to using a mask in Photoshop. Alright, so it looks like it got a little bit ghosted, so I'm just going to duplicate that 2 or 3 times, like so. Okay. And then before I go on, I actually want to create an additional outline between these two. So what I'm going to do is select my back color, come down to Path, Offset Path, and this time do -2 pixels. Or let's go even further. I'm just going to undo that. Let's say -4 pixels. Okay? And then from there, I'm going to select maybe a white. I don't know if I'm digging the white. It might be too much contrast. Sorry, I have to ungroup that because sometimes when you do an offset path, it groups your previous shape with the new one. So I'm going to select all of these white copies here, group those, and see how we look here. Okay, I'm actually going to leave that copy the same color as our backing here. I'm going to change that color, selecting them, grouping them, and then making that even darker. Right, something like that. Just so there's a little more of a difference between this and the copy behind it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is select this inner fill one more time, press Command C to copy, Command F to paste in front, and we're going to bring it all the way to the front by pressing Command Shift and the right bracket. From here, we'll return to the Object menu and come down to Path, Offset Path, which is great because you can either do, a negative offset in order to contract, or you can do a positive offset, which will basically expand your selection. So let's go ahead and see what -4 looks like one more time. And then we're going to hit Command X to cut that, just so we can keep it separate from our previous selection. And then press Command F to paste all that in front. From here, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select the other fill just behind it, and then come back to our Pathfinder and choose Divide. So you should have both of these now selected and choose Divide from the Pathfinder. Alright, then you can use your white selection tool and just click and delete the innermost fill from each of these letters. Okay? Now we're going to select that one more time. We're going to change the opacity, we're going to change the blend mode to multiply and reduce the opacity to around 40% so that we have, kind of like a shadow going on here. Alright, so this is what we've got so far. Okay? Now I'm going to select my darkest outline here, and I'm going to expand it a little bit more by adding a stroke. Alright, I'm going to make the weight maybe 4 pixels or so. It might be a little too much. Let's say 2 pixels. Split the difference, right? And then we're going to expand it like we did before, and then combine the shapes into the Unite option. Okay. Now I'm going to select that one more time. I'm going to press Command C and Command F to paste, and then just bump it up 1 or 2 pixels and sample this lighter color. Okay, and then what we want to do is send it all the way to the back. So you can press Command Shift in the left bracket to send it all the way to the back. And now it'll kind of look like you have a little bit of a highlight going on top. But I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter to make that more obvious. Okay? So here's what we've got. Okay, so hopefully you guys are with me. But what we want to do from here is actually add our swatch. We're going to add the wooden texture now. So select your inner fill, this light tan, press Command C, Command F to make another copy all the way in the front, and then we want to come back to Window, Swatches, and we're just going to select our wooden texture fill here. Cool? Alright, so now that we have that, I want to change the blending mode, so come back to your transparency and maybe set it to soft light. And play around with the opacity. You might not want it at 100%, but somewhere around 80 is kind of cool. Or, just experiment. Try it on multiply. Maybe something like that. Or it actually has a little bit more of a reddish-brown tint if you set it to overlay or soft light. But I'm kind of digging the soft light. So what I want to do now is lock that layer. So I'm going to press Command 2 on the keyboard, and I want to bring the vertical lines out a little bit, so I'm going to see what it looks like if I make another copy and paste it in front one more time. Okay, and there you go. Now we still have this highlight in the background, so that adds a little bit of depth to it, but if you want to push this even further, there's a couple of things you can do. So I just want to experiment a little bit here. See what else we can do with this to make it interesting. Okay, I'm going to select my back fill, the darkest brown color that we have here, and press Command C and then Command F and send it all the way to the back. And then what you want to do is actually press Command X to cut that selection. Alright, now I'm going to select everything else and press Command 2 to lock it, Command F to paste that selection back in the front. Send it to the back again, Command Shift in the left bracket, Command C to copy, Command F to paste, and then we're going to knock this down here. Okay, so there's another copy of this selection here, but you can't see it right now. Alright, but what we're going to do is just move it down and then hold the Alt and Shift key and drag either the upper right or upper left handle in a little bit. Okay? So now we have this copy as well as this copy all the way in the back behind our logo. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select both of those, and then come up to the Object menu and choose Blend, Blend Options. We're going to change this from smooth color to specified steps, and then for the number, set it to somewhere around 165 or 160. Okay, from there, press Command Option B on the keyboard, and that's going to blend those two together. And you'll see, because we had such a high number, it's going to create the illusion of a bevel or a little bit of a 3D effect happening, which helps to add a little bit more depth to our logo. So I think it's looking pretty cool. All right, and then if you want to press Command Option 2, that will unlock everything. I'm going to see what happens here if I work on this mask a little bit. I want to release the mask for a second. Just to take a look at everything. I think we're looking pretty good. Okay? And if you want, you can, repeat this process again if you wanted to make it look like a shadow instead of just a dark fill. And then you can put, a nice gradient or a fill color behind it. maybe not that crazy, but you kind of see where I'm going with it. All right, so there it is, guys. That's how you can kind of create a wooden Wordmark logo in Adobe Illustrator. And I don't know, what did that take, about 10 minutes or so? Not too long. So that's just one way that you can create a cool and interesting logo, and we've covered some pretty advanced stuff, so hopefully you guys stuck with me. And if you enjoyed this video, please comment or give us a thumbs up. Be sure to spread the word and sign up for our email list for our free Essential Photoshop Tutorials ebook. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.